While millions have enjoyed Stranger Things, what they might not know is that it very well could be based on a true story. My name is Christopher Garitano, and I've been researching the Montauk Project for over 10 years. So I spent almost a decade of having my head filled with these stories, these legends of time travel, mind control, Nazis, aliens. According to witnesses and alleged survivors, it all happened beneath the Camp Hero Air Force Base in Montauk, New York. According to the official story, the Camp Hero Air Force Base was a place to defend the east coast of the United States against Nazi attack during World War II. But then things get shady because after World War II, the United States recruited Nazi scientists and used them for a variety of things to develop weaponry and technology. And the people allegedly involved in the Montauk Project claim that these same Nazi scientists were brought down to Camp Hero to develop the Montauk Project. The Montauk Project is, according to the stories and the legends, a covert government operation that illegally recruited human subjects, runaway kids, for purposes of mind control, and some of the more elaborate stories are time travel, interstellar travel, interdimensional travel, and reverse engineering of extraterrestrial technology. But the core idea in the Montauk Project was a wrangling of human experiments. And this isn't far from fact. It's not fiction, because we know about things like MKUltra, and we know about things like the Holmesburg prison experiments. All of these secret government mind control programs, these things have been proven. The CIA had a program called Project Stargate. Project Stargate was a remote viewing program where they had a group of people who they were training to be powerful psychics. This is a real thing. Our government funded this and actually had some success with it. And so there were hearings in 1995. Bill Clinton actually apologized for some of them.
Thousands of government-sponsored experiments did take place at hospitals, universities, and military bases around our nation. These experiments were kept secret. The United States of America offers a sincere apology to those of our citizens who were subjected to these experiments.
So we know these things happened, and it's not science fiction. And so this is why Stranger Things could be based on a true story.
Respected law enforcement professional, recently or retired now from the FBI, former regional director of Los Angeles. Do you, sir, believe that these dreadful allegations of babies being sacrificed are true?
I absolutely believe it, without any doubt. Based on the information that's been given to me across the country by numerous survivors and by confidential sources and informants.
Then why don't you name these people and arrest them? Never a name, never an arrest. These women come out of a group and they insist that they know the people in the group, and yet they do not identify these large mysterious cults. Name them and arrest them and get them off the street.
Does he not make a valid point?
He makes a valid point. The problem with that is, number one, police officers don't believe it. I may believe it. You may believe it. Some people in your audience may believe it. They don't believe it. Number two, if you decide to investigate these people, you have to, number one, handle it from an undercover operation. If you put an undercover operation...
No me debió amareo, no de meio sea no mo de yo amareo ova sea no me debió amareo, no de meio sea no mo de yo
Yo, 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 yo. Back in this bit for another episode of Go Deep. This episode is Go Deep 188, and it's just me, so that means it's gonna be great. Why? Because I don't spread no hate. I just get a lot of hate, but I absorb it and give it back and turn it into something great. I'm like a rhyming machine, man. All right, so this is the worst intro I've ever done. I know, I understand, I completely understand, but this is a great show. This show is gonna be about, as if you saw that beginning intro, you probably don't understand it yet. Maybe you understand it, but if you saw the title, I know you completely understand it. The title, Save Our Children. Who are our children? We are our children, I think. The children that has needed to be saved is our generation. The children that had needed to be saved, in my opinion, are the listeners to this podcast. And I've been kind of carefully crafting little dossier, my files. Each one of these episodes is a dossier of this movement, or a little file, little data, little chapter put away of this movement, because I think the children that has needed to be saved is our generation. In turn, our generation will save everybody else. But some of the stuff we need to be saved from, we're just starting to understand it right now. Well, hold on. No, I can't even start getting that deep in this conversation because gotta listen to some music. When you hear this song, you're gonna listen to it and you're gonna be like, oh, word. That's Goody Mob. That's Cell Therapy. That's Who's That Looking in My Window, peeping through my window, whatever. But no, listen to the words, because they're talking about the new world order in every word. They might be from Atlanta, so they might be country, so you might have to slow it down, which I've done. It is chopped and screwed, so you can hear every word go deep style, very deep voice, low, a lot of bass. But you gotta listen to the words, because they're explaining what's going on right now. A lot of people have been explaining it. So let's listen to some music and then I'll get back into the interview, because I damn near interviewed myself. Yeah, bitch.
expose themselves to any tongue they can hang. Got me when the scene unfolds. Young girls, 13 years old, expose themselves to any tongue they can hang. Got more stress than these hoes. Hollin' they got rank. See, new world altar. Them experiencing in Atlanta, Georgia, United Nations overseas. Train assassins, do search and seize. Ain't knocking or asking. They're coming for niggas like me. Pull white trash like they, tricks like her. Back in slavery, concentration camps, laced with gas pipelines. Infernos outdoors like they had back when Adolf Hitler was living in 1945. Listen to me now, believe me later on in the future. Look ready in the Constitution that they evict corporation war places like Operation Hotel, Moments Tale, tight seal this bed, them say expect. Fool, you should be my least worst. Gotta see it with W2 1099s on more black helicopters swoop down and try to put missiles in mines. Who's that peeking in my window? Nobody now. Who's that peeking in my window? Nobody now.
Yeah, my family moved in our apartment complex. A gate with the serial code was put up next. They claim that this community is so drug free, but it don't look that way to me. Cause I can see the young bloods hanging out at the store. 24/7 junkies looking for a hit of the blow. It's powerful, but it don't look that way to me. Cause I can see the young bloods hanging out at the store. 24/7 junkies looking for a hit of the blow. It's powerful, but it don't look that way to me. Cause I can see the young bloods hanging out at the store. 24/7 junkies looking for a hit of the blow. It's powerful. Oh, you know what else they trying to do? Make a curfew, especially for me and you. The traces of the new world order. Time is getting shorter. If we don't get prepared, people, it's gonna be a slaughter. My mind won't allow me to not be curious. My folk don't understand, so they don't take it serious. But every now and then, I wonder if the gate was put up to keep crime out or keep our ass in.
Who's that peeking in my window? Nobody now. Who's that peeking in my window? Nobody now. Listen up, little nigga, I'm talking to you about what your little ass need to be going through. I fall a victim too, and I know I smoke so much, but I do with the crew every day on the average about 4 or 5. I'm lucky to be alive at sunrise. I won't be alive at a call after I lost my best friend. I'm recognized as a king. Who am I to tell you to stop smoking? Now you open to disease and cold, and ain't 16 years old. This shit has got to stop. Let's take a walk through the top. I won't out of this hole. I'm in the cell under attack. Look up, folks, they in the hood. Got an eye on every move I make. Open your face to info. You ain't know, cause it's come low. Ha, the new world plan. Reach the planet without the black man. What's your aim? Trying to separate me from the blood is disrespect, like coming in my home and not wiping your feet on the rug. The citronelle salute has got me, but me no hand, no phone. Look out for the man, the white pony on my back of bills, laying off my toes, always on my heels, the same plane. Soldiers coming in the dark by plane to report the new system by rain. Tag in with your computer and shit. Run your hand over the scanner to buy your dish now. No more fishing for your fish. It's the days of the old days, past ways gone, mind blown perception. My name on your selection, but I caught the con. Pow! Who's that peeking in my window? Pow! Nobody now. Who's that peeking in my window? Pow! Nobody now. Who's that peeking in my window?
Yo, 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 yo. All right, we back in this bitch. I hope you listen to every freaking word. As my southern gentlemen, my southern gangsters perfectly describe the New World Order on its way to America. As you heard, there's some Hitler there's some Hitler mentions in there. There's some all kind of shit. They perfectly described it like a Southern G would. They did it, and that song will forever go down in history. But so will these podcasts. I'm sure. As soon as people start listening to them, they're gonna be like, "Damn, that fucking guy was on point." But yo, so what we're gonna talk about? What are we gonna talk about? We are gonna talk about save our children, and what I did say is, I think our children do need to be saved. Yes, our children, like these children from sex traffickers, and these children from, all these pedophiles and all this crazy shit like that. Yes, that has to be saved, but in order to do that, we gotta understand what we're fighting up against. We gotta understand what we're going against, and this is the reason why some of us like Zack Snyder, because he be dropping little hints. Now, if you know, most of my shows are really about the New World Order. You can put Zack Snyder in those because he's talking about the New World Order as well. So it's a perfect match. Even before the Snyder Cut movement, I was talking about Zack Snyder because both of our narratives match. But you gotta know what's going on. So in BVS, you might see there's a beginning scene with Batman saving a bunch of young girls from probably being sex trafficked and shit like that. But when you really tie it in, don't just look at it like, oh, that was a cool Batman scene. Look at it. Look at the whole bigger picture. Look at who it was working for. That was LexCorp. That was American Corporation. Lex Luthor, very prominent person working with the United States government, bribing the United States government, and assassinating government officials with this bomb. So he was also sex trafficking little girls who, once we can get real deep, and we will get real deep. I'm gonna hold this as a part one, and I know y'all are, because remember I say the stars are listening to this. The stars are you guys. Y'all are the real children that needs to be saved. Also, we do need to save the smaller children too, but in our generation kind of started that New World Order entrance in America. Or our parents' generation, and we are the children of our parents. So Batman, he's on the case, sex trafficking, saves the girls. You notice all the girls were little Asian girls, because there's so many people in Asia that, these kids just go unnoticed, One of my closest friends, my ex-girlfriend, who y'all seen called the show before, Katie, she's been on the show. I did a podcast with her. She's an orphan from Asia, and she was picked up and saved by an American family. But it's so many of these little Asian girls that it's so many of them that they just get like so much shit happens to them. But also, not only because we're stuck on a pedophilia, but it's more than pedophilia. Like when you see what Lex was talking about, you should see what our R&D department is doing. R&D is research and development. So this ties into Epstein. This ties into all of that. Bill Gates, all of the people, all of this new AI technology that Zack Snyder's talking about, this new more than transhumanism technology that like cyborgs or all this shit that's coming to the world, and will have to be introduced through America, because America is the home of the style or the fashion or whatever we do. If New York or LA or America implements it, the world will soon follow it. So that's what's going on. So that's been going on in America supposedly since the ending of World War II. So we brought in a bunch of scientists from Nazi Germany. We brought in a bunch of scientists, and people know we brought in the NASA scientists, and we brought in, you know, other like JPL, or, you know, other propulsion scientists, I should say. But we also brought in the MK Ultra testers also, who was mind control, like scientists that was doing like mind control tests on the Jews in the camps and shit. So that all came to America. So not only was like the Nazis, and they say they went to South America, which is America also. They just went to the West. They came over here, but they started testing on our population, which will be our parents. So our parents went through a bunch of tests. They went through a bunch of psychological tests. My parents from the South went through a bunch of psychological tests like discrimination, KKK, lynching, all this other shit like that. My parents went through that. So they created a certain world belief that their kids, me, will develop. Hopefully, once we inherit it, we update, you know, our parents' way of thinking, and we just get better over time. But each time, on a mass scale, so think of us like an ant farm on a mass scale. Imagine if they could just implement a certain amount of fear on a mass, like a whole state, you know? Imagine what those kids that grew up in the 80s are gonna be. That if they got picked on all their life, or they got traumatized all their life, or they got abused all their life, imagine what happens to their brain. Imagine what they fucking wanna relate to or release into. Imagine why they start reading comic books, because they need a superhero to come save the day, because we all going through some shit. That's why I always ask people, you know, like, hey, how you do? Whenever we on the podcast, I try to ask them about what type of shit y'all done been through, because we all going through some shit. But all of that shit has made us come together. So the Nazis have been studying this. This is what Epstein has been doing. When they come up with the Neuralink, or when they try to get with Bill Gates and develop the Neuralink, that's the computer link to the brain. They have to figure out how the brain works. So what they do is they give the brain a lot of traumatizing fucking events. Sleep deprivation, food deprivation, water deprivation, torture, sex trauma, you know, traumatic events like killing people, seeing other people killed in front of you. All just to see what kind of kids you're gonna develop. If we could download all of this shit in your brain in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, what's your offspring gonna come out like? So, supposedly that offspring is gonna be kind of like super kids, because they develop so much trauma, their brain adapts to something, to the trauma where it's not traumatic anymore, where they're able to deal with it, where they're able to overcome it, where they're able to find different patterns or different fucking ideologies or different ways of thinking in life where they overcome so much. They're super kids. This is us. We just don't know it, because we don't know what test the Nazis did on us and still doing on us, which I'm gonna get to. So if, let's say, all those, kids, girls Batman was gonna save, they're now in America. They're now all gonna be sexually abused, trafficked throughout different neighborhoods, prostituted probably, murdered. I mean, all the worst shit is gonna happen to them, and they're never gonna be, nobody's ever gonna know. Nobody's ever gonna remember. And that was in Gotham City. That's in America. That happens here while we just watch sports every day and go to work. All of this shit is going on. So, imagine the girls that come out of that. Let's say some of them talk. That's what Epstein is going down for right now. Some of the girls are talking. That's what Prince Andrew is going down for right now. Some of the girls are talking. But a lot of people, let's say Prince Andrew wants to have sex with little girls. Think of what somebody has to supply the little girls. Somebody has to cover up the little supply chain. If it's that big to get to him, it has to be a huge cover up. So not only that, look what else is on this operation. Now someone knows you're sleeping with little girls and you're the prince of a major country. So now someone can blackmail you for anything they want. But your little mentality of sleeping with little girls is you don't give a fuck. You're just gonna do it. But what if that's a way of life for a lot of people, And what if people implemented that system, just like there's a system of cocaine trafficking made by the same people? And you're gonna get into that because I'm gonna drop some videos. All of these systems of fucking fuck shit in America are implemented by the same people who we think are good guys. From drug trafficking to human trafficking. How it's done. All right, I'm gonna get back into the kids that's being used to do all of this shit. So now look at my generation. Let's say for my traumatic parents' lives, all my friends are pretty successful in life. Some of them have been drug dealers. Some of them have been in the workforce as in construction. Some of them has been to the military, but they are pretty successful. But let's talk about like the listeners to our show. We all got something that happened to us in life that put us on the straight and narrow that we can relate to these comic characters for. We all got something that makes us want to be a superhero. And we all now seeing there's also supervillains in our regular day, right? So we're coming up with this Save the Children shit because we think there's a big pedophilia ring, which there is pedophilia, but there's so much more onto this pedophilia. Pedophilia is just like the entry level of this. Once you do that, like some gangs, you gotta kill somebody to get in. Once you do this shit, you're in. So now you get involved with so much other shit, from blackmail to drug running to all kind of shit. All kind of shit. And maybe the kids, us, we are being used to implement all of this shit. Maybe, like look at the gangs in my generation. The gangs are used to pretty much run drugs for, all right, we should know by now, I'm not saying any fucking classified information. We should know by now the CIA brought drugs into the country. So if the gangs are running the drugs and all this shit, the gangs are actually running drugs for the CIA. Maybe that's why the gang culture is so big in the rap videos these days, because now you can take a rapper who's supposed to be around the world, who travels all the time. He travels with a fucking entourage of 20 to 50 people, really, get checked. Some have private planes, whatever. You can carry a lot of drugs. It's been done. I'm not saying anything that people don't know already. The Rat Pack used to do this shit. I'm just talking about my generation right now because a lot of people don't believe this shit is still going on. So in my generation, the people who still striving for a superhero but don't know we are the superheroes that are waking up right now to see. We're waking up to see a lot of pedophilia shit, but it's so much more than pedophilia. This is basically what this shit is conversations about. So now, let's say you have this organization like the Clinton Foundation who's been getting caught with so much fuck shit like in Haiti and Arkansas and blah, 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 blah. And they're connected with the Bushes, so it's bipartisan. It's both sides, So one, they're all doing some fuck shit in America. The fuck shit is unlimited. We already know about it, or we're figuring it out right now. But when we don't stop and think it's just pedophilia and we're gonna just kick it to Epstein and just be like, oh, well, we're done, 2020. No. It's way more than pedophilia. So now, let's say I got this video I gotta find of Lindsay Lohan, and it's perfect. She's in our generation. It's a perfect one to say. Lindsay Lohan, icon in the world, big actress. Say now Lindsay Lohan, sex symbol, but she's also on these movies. They train her, she knows how to punch, kick, jump, whatever, shoot, prop guns or whatever. She knows how to use different accents. She knows how to, she's in the circles at the dinners with the big wigs who wants to push certain agendas. She's a major sex symbol. Well, before she wigs out and shit, she's a major sex symbol. So billionaire sheiks and people in Saudi Arabia want to have sex with her. But say you can't set up a diplomatic mission with the Prince of Saudi Arabia or some shit, but you can't set up a diplomatic mission with him because it'll be shown on the diplomatic records that America and him was meeting. But you can send Lindsay Lohan over there because he wants to have sex with her because she's a major sex symbol and he pays no matter what amount of money to get her. So she goes over there, but she's just the same CIA connected as a U.S. diplomat. She's just doing actress. Her day job is an actress. This is why these stars are so politically connected. And they come out with their little political messages that they have to toe and fall in line because they're just a tool of the same military-industrial complex as the mainstream media and as the Army, Navy, CIA, FBI. They're just all the same people. So I have this little video. Lindsay Lohan is using like a little, like a Middle Eastern voice and trying to lure a little kid somewhere in the Middle East away from her parents so she can go give her this perfect life or whatever. But we now know what that perfect life is gonna entail. But Lindsay Lohan, why are you faking your voice to be like you're one of them when you're really an actress in America? But are you really? Or are you basically a CIA puppet installed in Hollywood to elevate your props and go meet people off the diplomatic record? It happens all the time. This is how it happens. So Beyonce and Jay-Z might look like their husband, or I can't say, these people might look like their husband and wife in the face like some Hunger Games shit, but behind the scenes, they're getting flown around, trafficking kids in their entourage, trafficking drugs in their entourage, trafficking every fucking thing else because nobody checks them because they're stars. This is like Marilyn Monroe sleeping with the president. You don't just get involved with the president, you know what I'm saying? And his brother. publicly and be the biggest sex symbol in the world, she probably wasn't only sleeping with the president. But say this, say the president start pillow talking and say some shit around her one night after they're drunk and just had sex, and he just say some fuck shit one day. She's now an intelligence agent who could tell anybody, Russia, China, what JFK just said, right? Because he just was pillow talking. But we, the world, think she's just a major white girl sex symbol. But no, once you get in circle of this type of intel, you're never a regular person. You're not just a regular dude. We could all say you're intelligence agents, no matter what you do for your day job. So now, get to our children shit. Let's keep going to our children, save our children. So now we're finding out that all these people like Ellen DeGeneres, probably was doing some Epstein shit, and why all these stars riding on Epstein's plane and going to Epstein Island and doing all this shit? Well, the conspiracy theorists been told everyone why. Y'all just didn't believe us. There's a major sex trafficking ring from Hollywood to Washington, D.C. that goes with all the stars, all the celebrities, all the well, not all of them. I can't say all of them. Most stars, you can see who sold out and start becoming a part of the industry. They're involved. But it's stuff you can't do nothing about. You get big like Elvis, right? You get big in the industry and you just go travel to city. But now there's people around you collecting millions of dollars for you and, loading up your buses and loading up everything. But what are they loading it up with? Who knows? But who's going to check Elvis's bus? It's fucking Elvis. So if he just drop a load of 50 keys to some fucking dude in fucking bumfuck Arkansas on his way to Tennessee, nobody can do shit about it because it's fucking Elvis. You see what I'm saying? So but also think about this. When those keys that Elvis just dropped to the fucking Clinton or, whatever, that some bumfuck Arkansas town or whatever. Think about this. So now it goes to the black neighborhoods to sell those drugs. Freeway Ricky Ross, who is a part of Iran-Contra and come out telling his story. Everyone should look at Freeway Ricky Ross, but he's also, his story gets deeper when the dude from San Diego's Sun Sentinel or Sun Times, I forget his name, but he comes out with a piece about the drug trafficking and the CIA bringing in the drugs in the country. He gets killed. I'll probably throw him in here. But it's when you see what that's connected to all kind of shit. That's connected to fucking sex trafficking, human trafficking, drug trade, connection with the street gangs, connection with the police, connection to huge corruption. And also look like the good guys in their day job. That's what we're facing right now, but we better look at it when we think it's just gonna stop at some pedophilia. No, it's way bigger than pedophilia. Pedophilia is just the entry to this game. They're really checking out what the brain does in trauma on a mass scale. So now on a mass scale, let's say like a big human ant farm, they just send their agents of chaos in this ant farm to implement a bunch of different traumatic events in these different cities. And then they see what grows of those people. And usually through trauma, as we see in Asia, they dropped a nuke on Hiroshima, and now Japan is one of the biggest cities in the world. Biggest countries in the world after surviving a fucking extinction level event. These are tests. These are tests on humans. These are tests on humankind in a large scale. Remember, there was this Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie with Matthew McConaughey on it one time. And they ran to this limo. And then they were like, yo, help me. And then they get out and it looks like a politician that helps them. But he eventually, becomes a bad guy. He opens up his shirt with all this satanic shit on it. And he basically just implementing chaos into the fucking city because he's on some demon devil shit. But it's probably, he works in the day job as a politician, but he's probably in a fucking program also. They're watching him to see what happens in this city now, because think about this. The more violence they implement, the more cops they can put on the streets to patrol also. It's just a huge game of fucking totalitarianism. But they need these little sparks. They need like Joker, Heath Ledger. He was gonna spark. He wanted the city to blow those two boats up. The rich blow up the poor. He wanted a spark. And here we go. He said all they need is a little push off the cliff. This is always going on. So it's more than just pedophilia. It's sparks of fucking big data to check out what grows, what comes after, like, all right, we can destroy all these Asians in China and have these Vietnamese wars and kill all these Middle Easterns and all this shit, but they don't think that Asia is going to be finished. That's just a part of the plan of the first 40 years. But they think the next 100 years is going to be order out of this chaos that they're making right now. We're witnessing the chaos, but we don't know the ones making the chaos are the same people who says they're going to implement order. We think it's just some random crazies like Leatherface rolling around with a chainsaw and just some sadistic killer doing some crazy shit, when it's actually, on one level, it's some politician on No Country for Old Men actually selling fucking drugs with the fucking bad guys, Mexicans, who he's probably in Texas talking shit about in his day job. Night job, he's selling drugs and doing with foreign mercenaries to get people killed. Maybe is one level like that Texas Chainsaw Massacre, politician shit. Just do some crazy shit in the city and see what happens. Implement a totalitarian system afterward, or just see what happens with the people in that community after they deal with some shit like Leatherface. All of this shit goes on that level. Then there's one level even higher than that. Some Epstein shit. Epstein and Bill Gates, now they're checking to see what all that trauma does to the brain, because we need to tell the AI, so now the AI can look more human-like. The AI is gonna be able to be spotted if he can't even understand a knock-knock joke, right? So he has to know every fucking thing. So one day when he comes out to look like a human, he's untraceable because he can speak completely like a human. But if he comes out talking like this, what's going on? Then they just hang up the phone. They'd be like, oh, your your step parents are dead. Your foster parents are dead. One of them situation. But if they come out speaking just like us, they'll, you know what I'm saying? So they're training the AI right now. That's one level above the politicians. Epstein, Bill Gates. Then you have one level above them, Ghislaine Maxwell, who's not only procuring these dates with the little girls to get all this probably brain data after these traumatic raping events. She's also in the media family where her family is so big they actually mind control and tell you what to think through the media. That's one level above politicians. That's one level above Epstein. But then above that, you have the finishers of the fucking Nazi World War II party. You have the Fourth Reich, one level above Epstein. They think they are reincarnated. When we talk about NXIVM and Epstein and all this, they think they are reincarnations of Nazis. Okay, so the real Nazis are above them. And the real people that was fighting them, I guess the Russians at the time, they're above them. And they're all figuring this brain shit out because they're ushering in the next technology, the AI system. And whoever do it right is gonna be like having a genie in a bottle or a god that you can ask everything to. That's why fucking Zack Snyder said to he made Lex say to the fucking robot in the ship, in the scout ship, he was like, teach me everything. Remember, corporations also is represented with LexCorp. They're the ones who's going after this AI shit. They're the ones who's really trickling down from this big octopus or this big web of tentacles and shit. The corporations are actually the ones implementing all of this shit from bottom to the top. From person pedophile to agents of chaos to Bill Gates, Epstein, all this other shit, to Ghislaine Maxwell, to fucking Nazi shit, old World War II money. It's all corporations. It's all Lex. It's all like LexCorp. They do it in different ways now. So as you've seen with Ozymandias, he tells them people in the oil business, he says, privately, I'm worth more than all of you combined. He was a young guy. He was on his Egyptian shit. That represents New World Order. He was wearing the color purple. If you're a fan of Go Deep, you know that color purple represents revolution. It's a color scheme in all of these revolutions. He was wearing color purple, and he showed his little plan. In the background, there was a scene like 9/11 with the Twin Towers being hit by a blimp, supposedly. But it's all being shown through Zack Snyder's movies. We just got to understand what they're saying. So that brings us to us, this final chapter, this final little thing. Who are we? So now we're on the internet. These kids that have been through all of this trauma and have probably their brain has fucking mutated into some like X-Men type shit. That's probably why the X-Men relate to us so much. That's probably why the X-Men even was written. People were saying there's probably some gay shit involved, but I don't know about that gay shit. I think it's more about the mutation of our brain after we've been through a lot of traumatic shit from our parents growing up through a fucked up America. So now we're here, we're online, and we're showing ourselves to be the Snyder Cut movement. And we're showing ourselves to be the most powerful movement ever. And we're showing ourselves on Twitter. But we also know there's constant abuse. Constant abuse, no matter what, there's constant abuse. And there's probably people checking the data to see what happens. What do we say? What do we do after we've been abused? Constant abuse in this movement, constant data, constant reports, constant fucking venting, constant letting it out. Of course, AT&T and Warner Brothers says, hey, we're gonna use AI to read y'all's guys' conversations. Of course, because we them niggas. It's us they wanna know about. And we just grouped up in the Snyder Cut movement. But if you listen to Go Deep, all of our stories are the same. There's no way I'm the same person as all of y'all. You understand what I'm saying? You see how I brought this shit right back? You think I was just blabbering, but you see how I brought this shit right back? There's no way that I relate to all of y'all separately because of one movie. It's more than that. It's way more than that. There's no way y'all like this fucking podcast because I be talking so much wild shit. If y'all didn't relate or if y'all didn't feel this shit in y'all's blood, y'all would just exit this shit, never come back to Go Deep again. But y'all don't. Y'all know I'm telling the truth. But I don't think y'all really be believing me. So this is part one. I'm gonna bring in some white people and they're gonna talk. And then y'all gonna be like, oh, I see what he was saying. And then I'll finish some more shit with part two. Because one of y'all are gonna hear this podcast and y'all are gonna be like, yo, I know exactly what you're talking about. You should have me on the show. And I'm gonna say, yo, come on the fucking show. And then you're gonna do it, and then we're gonna record it, and then it's gonna be part 2 to this show. And then somebody else is gonna hear it and say, yo, I got a similar story. It's gonna be part 3. And no other podcast does this. Because I know who we are. And I'm making y'all bitches know too. Yeah, bitch.
Hey everyone, I just want to show you a family that I met that's a Syrian refugee family that I'm really worried about because I'm going to introduce you to them. Marcella, tell me your story so I can help you. Wanna come tell them? What do you need? What do you need? Do you want to stay in a hotel tonight? Do you want to watch movies? Yeah. It'd be so cool, right? To watch a movie on TV or a computer. Yeah. Let's go. Let me take them. Let them sleep. Come with me. You and me come. Just come. Just come with me. Not your husband. Just you and your kids. You shouldn't be sleeping on the floor. But you're a good little boy. And this is not fair. You should not have them on the floor. You should be a hardworking woman. I'm freezing right now. And you should be doing what you do for your children so they have a better life. No, this is dirty. Leave it.
No.
I will get you new. I'll get you new.
No.
Leave it. Dirty.
No,
It's wet. Leave it.
party.
Come. No, we go. Guys. No, yes. And خلاص. Guys, you're going the wrong way. My car's here. Cut. Look what's happening. They're trafficking children. Shut up. I won't leave until I take you. Now I know who you are. Don't fuck with me. Give me your hand. Give me your hand.
já fui,
I'm like in shock right now. And they were trying to run to me, and I'm just like so scared. I literally can't.
You just mentioned that you were testifying in front of FBI.
Yes.
What kind of testifying was that we're talking about?
In 1989, I brought forward the diaries of her controller or handler, Alex Houston, because these diaries contained a number of large cash transactions among high-ranking officials, both within the Justice Department, in the entertainment business, as well as some politicians, including...
Kelly, you have in front of you a list of the people that you collected after your recollection of everything that happened after you was rescued by Mark Phillips. People that you can say and swear the member of the Rose. Can you give me this list and tell me what people are on that list? And you also having a list of all drug traffickers that you was acquainted with. You met them and you work with them.
Yes, this is a partial list that I've compiled. It was just a matter of listing some names for convenience purposes for people investigating. And I refer to it as a perfect traitors list because these are certainly traitors of our country that are involved in implementing the New World Order under this group that they refer to as the Order of the Rose. And the orders from the Rose were orders from George Bush. That's not to say he was the very top person in this effort, but he certainly was in this, the aspect of it that was going on in our country, Canada, Mexico, and throughout the Caribbean. One of his primary people that was working under him in the UN capacity was Madeleine Albright, and Madeleine Albright was part of the Order of the Rose that was involved in the Caribbean operations, and even had an office in the Organization of American States office in Washington, D.C.
You visited her. Can you tell me more details how you came in touch with her? And you told me that she also sexually harassed you in that office at the time. Can you tell me approximately the time frame and when it's happened and when you visited and who brought you to this meeting with her and what was the purpose of that meeting?
This was in, I believe it was 1985. I have a little more difficulty with exact dates and times because as a programmed multiple, in essence, it was as though it were one long day to me. I was not aware of time, my age, or anything else. But Madeleine Albright was at the White House cocktail party that was being thrown for Brian Mulroney, Prime Minister of Canada, who is also Order of the Rose. And
main purpose for you being there was what?
Was for prostitution to Brian Mulroney at that time. But anytime I was in Washington, D.C., it was usually multi-purposed, as was this particular trip. And after having been prostituted to Brian Mulroney that
Can you
night,
explain me the situation in more details? Who brought you there and what was the room that was used for that reason? Also in White House, or he was guest in White House, he slept in White House?
Yes, he had a room in the White House at that time, and I was brought into a White House cocktail party for the purposes of making contact with Brian Mulroney for prostitution later that evening in his room in the White House.
This room? Can you describe this room?
It was one of the nicer guest quarters that they have in the White House, and it was actually a suite. It wasn't just a bedroom. There was an outside room to it that had a sofa in it and some comfortable furniture. But also in that room, by the time I entered, were 3 other girls, one of which was a very dear friend of mine who remains a dear friend of mine to date. She's a mind-controlled slave of U.S. Senator Arlen Specter. She's not free at this time. She is amnesic of most of the events, and she's anxiously awaiting the day that someone will be able to rescue her from her ongoing mind control existence.
What is her name and where is she located now?
For her safety, I will not say her name or her location, but I will say that she has flashes of memory at times. And when I was talking with her recently, she said that...
You met with her in person?
Yes, I've seen her since. She knows that the book Transformation of America has been written, and she finds tremendous hope for her and her children and for other mind control victims, that someone is actually vocalizing the atrocities that are going on in this country.
To come back to the topic of Mulroney, so he was brought to the entrance of the White House, especially which entrance he was using for?
Service entrance. And to exemplify how the mind control slave's subconscious is so literal, my escort, Secret Service escort, stopped outside the door and pointed out the sign that said service entrance on it to me and enunciated it quite differently so that I understood it to read, serve us in trance. And the service entrance was very often how I was brought into the White House. He took me inside and up to the room that was being used for a cocktail party. Well, actually, it's a series of rooms that's all interconnected where you walk from one right on into
That was during the Reagan administration, right?
Yes.
President Reagan.
Reagan was president at the time, and...
Mrs. Reagan was not there, or she was there?
Not that I saw. She wasn't... I never had any association with her, and didn't see her around at all.
So who brought you there? I mean, just Secret Service, but who was your mind control operator at the time?
At the time, my handler was Alex Houston. Alex Houston was the one who was part of the country music industry, which was the cover for our travels that brought me wherever I was ordered to go. U.S. Senator Robert C. Byrd was my owner, and as my owner, Senator Byrd directed my activities. He's the one who told Alex Houston to have me in specific places at designated times. And on this occasion, it was Senator Byrd who ordered that Alex Houston bring me to the White House. And also, because I had other business in Washington that I would have to be tending and mind control programmed for at that particular time. So Alex Houston had brought me to Washington and left me off with the Secret Service, who escorted me into the White House and to the rooms, the series of rooms where this particular cocktail party for Brian Mulrooney.
So there was, you spent all night in bed with him and having intercourse with him, or?
Not all night, just until he was sexually gratified, and then I left from there and was with Senator Byrd, as was so often the case.
What do you mean by you was with him after you slept with him as well?
Yes, very often there were a series of men that I would have to sleep with have sex with in one particular night. But as a sex slave, there was no personal interaction, there was no conversation, there was no keeping me around for any purposes. I was simply there for sexual gratification purposes. And that was the case on this night. As I was going through this cocktail party, George Bush and Madeleine Albright were also present. And George Bush signaled me to come over to he and Madeleine Albright and talk. And it was there that Madeleine Albright ordered that I would be brought to her OAS office the next day.
So she said that you mentioned in your book, I remember the page 167 even by heart, that George Bush told you about Margaret Albright. Who is she and something like that.
Well, yes, he made some jokes to the effect that she was the, quote, Reverend Mother of all sisters, which cryptically meant that she ordered mind control slaves such as myself around. And that particular cryptic language was indigenous to the Catholic Vatican, the Jesuit mind control aspect of my victimization. So the Order of the Rose and the Catholic influence that I was experiencing at that particular time put me into the Catholic Jesuit mode of operation that I had been previously programmed for and conditioned for, and was often used for carrying out particular Caribbean operations.
And now your second meeting with her was in that building that you was mentioning before. Can you describe the building and her office and how it looks like and how this event had happened?
Well, the OAS building is located in Washington, D.C., and Alex Houston dropped me off out front. I went through the front door, and there's like a hallway that goes all the way through the OAS building and right out to the back where there's a rock garden. Her office...
How the garden looks like? There's some elements that you can describe?
The rock garden had a little walkway, like a sidewalk, where people who worked there, people who were brought in, could go outside. There were different rocks, some trees and shrubs there, and a lot of Caribbean art was around the woodwork. I noticed that there was some Haitian artwork in particular that I recognized from having been in Haiti on operations so many times.
So you was first probably, you went through the guard there and who told you where you're going, right? And first somebody asked you where you're going, or?
No, I just went straight in. I already knew where I was supposed to go, and I'm sure that the different indicators that I was wearing was a tip to many that I was part of the CIA operations anyway. I, too, had to wear the different roses, and particularly in my hair. But I had been given a little red rosy cross when I was first brought into the Order of the Rose.
Could you just keep this, what you was talking yesterday, and I just want to be curious if you can tell us on camera that. You went to her room and she was sitting there, right? And she was...
Yes, after
what's
we
happened
talked outside and I had received my orders, she brought me back into her office, which is located near the rock garden, and it's on the left as you go in. The office was really quite small, but it too had some of the Caribbean art on the walls. Some Haitian carvings were around the room. There was a file cabinet. Overall, it was a relatively small office because it was not her main office. But this OAS office was directly connected to the United Nations, and anytime I was around Madeleine Albright, the Catholic Jesuit aspect was accessed and used, and she accessed my sex programming at that time and made me perform oral sex on her before leaving.
So how long was this actually? So what she did was she just take her clothes off and order you to order oral sex on her?
Well, actually, she just removed her panties. She was wearing a dress at the time, a longer skirt, which was more suitable for summer. It was a summer type weather anyway, and she just removed her nylon panties and had me perform oral sex on her while she sat in her office chair. And
was she excited with that? Did she has orgasm?
Yeah.
You can think of. How long you stayed there in her office?
As long as it took. I really don't know how long it was. Any time for something so disgusting is too long. But it was just until she was sexually gratified, and then I was just ordered to leave.
So what kind of order did she give you in that particular moment when she met with you?
Well, she just accessed the sex program part, the same part like Hillary Clinton would use, and that was done through the sister references, particularly a twin sister reference where the sex programming had actually already been instilled, and the removal of her panties and with her spreading her legs and giving me orders was really all it took.
So in other words, you was completely automatic. So you was just because of your mind control and your robotic behavior in the time.
Totally robotic, and I had no ability to do anything other than what I was instructed or what I had been previously trained to do. And she was well aware of the fact that I was programmed and trained. She was aware of the fact that I was used in pornography with Larry Flint's Hustler magazine.
Okay, you have some magazine where you can see the photographs of you on that magazine.
Those are available.
They're available on the Larry Flint's and Enterprise and Hustler magazine. Okay, what I would like to ask you this question that we were starting this programming, this particular segment was about your knowledge of other members of the Order of the Rose. That you can. Did you give any testimony to any organization like FBI or anything regarding that Order of the Rose?
No organization like that. As a matter of fact, there are certain factions, criminal factions of the government that are involved in this. There's certain factions of CIA and certain factions of FBI, much lesser on the FBI. This was very high up in government. This is government officials such as Mexican President Miguel de la Madrid, who was president during the Reagan administration, Salinas, who was vice president and later went on to be president of Mexico.
You met the person personally?
Yes.
Did you also perform your sexual...
With De La Madrid.
De La Madrid, not with Salinas?
Several times with De La Madrid, yes.
Where, in Mexico or in...
In Mexico.
In Mexico.
And other people involved were like Bill Clinton. In 1984, I had occasion to be at the CIA Near-Death Trauma Center compound in Lampe, Missouri, and Bill Clinton and George Bush were there together. To some people in this country, it seems odd that a Republican and a Democrat would be together. But in fact, their agendas were exactly the same. Their agendas didn't even have to do with the Democratic-Republican parties, did not have to do with the best interests of the United States. Their interests were this new world order. They both had exactly the same goal and the same agenda. At that time, they were conversing to that effect, and Bush said that when the American people became disillusioned with the Republican Party, that Bill Clinton, as a Democrat, would be brought into the presidency to finish carrying out this new world order plan.
Other subject is when you was discussing, I'm recalling now the tape that you sent me to Europe, when I was showing to people that editors and some people from the various magazines that find big interest, but at the same time very big skepticism, because they don't have particular details in their topics. You was talking about this hunting field when Bush and Clinton were present. Can you tell me more particular where was happened, which plant you're talking about, and what you detailed, how you can detail that?
Well, this was this most dangerous game, as they referred to it, was a matter of human hunting. And when a mind control slave such as myself was stripped of clothes and turned loose in the woods, I was then hunted by George Bush, Dick Cheney, and Bill Clinton, among others. But they were the main ones. I do not believe that it was necessary for them to have subjected me to this form of trauma. There were so many other traumas going on at the time. My mind was already prime conditioned for mind control program. So I really don't understand it, except for the fact that they found great pleasure in this form of human hunting. And they took it from particular military maneuvers. And
which base we're talking about when you was recalling the situation when Clinton was present and Mr. Bush? Which airspace?
There's a little place called Lampe, Missouri, that's just across the Arkansas line. Bill Clinton was governor of Arkansas at that time, and his whole cocaine operation that was Mena, Arkansas was the main hub for, was bringing cocaine into this CIA compound. And this particular Swiss villa, as they called it, amphitheater, in Lampe, Missouri, was actually a CIA compound out in the woods, military fencing all around it, and mind control training center where there was high-tech equipment was in one building. There were offices in another. There were little Swiss-style villas or cabins where different officials in either the military, CIA, or politics would stay, and it would house them while they were there for either the cocaine activities, for the paramilitary operations that were going on. You know, there are black helicopters everywhere, total robotic guys that were being used in special forces.
Which special forces you're referring to? There was also another program on mind control by Delta Force,
yes.
Right? Can you describe what is your knowledge? Do you have any knowledge of that, or you met these people, and can you describe me some more of this?
The Delta Force and the Navy SEALs are an elite part of the military that is mind controlled, like the mercenaries. I'm more familiar with the mercenaries that were being trained to carry out international operations that weren't necessarily sanctioned by Congress, and they were brought into other countries, such as South America, and to carry out their orders. When in a country like that, the airplanes would then come back with the drugs in them, and the drugs were then sold on the streets here in America and really worldwide. The CIA's so-called war on drugs was nothing more than the CIA eliminating their competition and taking over the drug industry. So it was all inter-attached. It all interworked. At this particular compound in Lampe, Missouri, the paramilitary operations there were for more of the UN aspect. They didn't wear UN uniforms. They wore black uniforms, had black helicopters, and this was for implementing the New World Order and didn't really have anything to do with our actual military defense.
So there were some specific units which was probably out of control, maybe, but they was very well known to the President of the United States because he was taking part of that.
Oh, very well known, yes, and maybe not so well known even to some higher officials in the military because this was not a routine military. It was a routine military base. It was not routine military maneuvers. It was not known to the American public. Instead, this was secret operations and, like I said, for the purposes of bringing in the New World Order.
And also, I believe, acquiring a lot of money that was paid on the street of various cities, which was used for various operations.
Yes, it's enormous amounts of money that were brought in through the drug industry. If we had this illegally gained money actually being used for our country, we wouldn't have a national debt here. There wouldn't be any problem at all. But instead, all this money was being used for the global effort. So the money was being funneled into that. Much of it, I'm aware, was being funneled through the Catholic, like the Catholic convents, Jesuit schools, and all the money a lot of times was being funneled right through there, through the Catholic Church for laundering purposes, and then actually put into the New World Order effort. Another one of these compounds was on Mount Shasta in California.
You were there too?
Yes, I was.
How many times you were there?
One time I was taken there.
Which year we're talking about? Which year? Can you recall the year?
December 1986. And that was when George Bush and Dick Cheney were at that particular compound and indulged in their perverse pleasure of most dangerous games.
Did you sleep with George Bush yourself?
No, never. Even though he was present when he had turned me loose in the woods, he also had turned my daughter, Kelly, loose. She was only 6 years old at the time. And later on that evening, when Kelly was brought in...
California? You're talking about California?
When Kelly was brought in, she said that she had been caught, same as me, to quote her, in that so-called most dangerous game. That was to make her feel responsible for the sexual abuse that followed, and it was to make me feel responsible for it, because had we not been caught, then we wouldn't have had to have endured the sexual abuse that followed. George Bush sexually assaulted my daughter, and Dick Cheney sexually assaulted me.